I know the country has grown weary of the fight. We need to remember we're at war with a virus, not with one another, not with each other. This is the moment where we need to steel our spines, redouble our efforts, and recommit ourselves to the fight. Let's remember, we're all in this together.
President-elect Joe Biden calling on Americans to come together to beat the coronavirus pandemic. This as President Trump is again attempting to overturn the results of the election and also appearing to signal he's considering pardoning himself before leaving office. Joining us now, CNN political analyst Estet Hernan. He is a national political reporter for the New York Times, and CNN legal analyst Ellie Honig, former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. Good to see you both this morning. Happy Thanksgiving on this very strange Thanksgiving. Estet, as we look at this, it's not really surprising what we're seeing and hearing from either camp. But what is interesting, I think, is as we hear from Joe Biden, the way in which he is acknowledging what he is about to face once he takes that oath of office in January, because he's noting very clearly, I think, in both his op-ed for CNN.com and in what we heard from him yesterday, that we've all got to hunker down because this is not getting better anytime soon.
Yeah, I think it's a game of expectations here where he is trying to set a kind of reality back after a president that has not acknowledged the reality of the virus, that has not made any attempt to recognize its seriousness, and has not really governed in a manner that reflected that. And so you have Vice President-elect, you have the President-elect saying that this is what is going to be the number one issue for him when he takes office. And obviously he has coupled that with the economic relief message from the impact of the virus. But you have those kind of parallel tracks that we have seen all throughout this year. Joe Biden preaching unity, saying the country needs to come together, and kind of a pragmatism that's reminiscent of presidents of the past, while you have President Trump beating the drum around, not in this case trying to overturn the election, but before that just wishing away the virus through his more cultural concerns in the other. And I think that is going to be something that continues. It can even in a Biden administration, will Republicans come around to the point where that kind of pragmatism, that kind of realism is something that actually is a governing strategy. He needs Republicans to buy into that. Otherwise, it'll be gridlock again.
Such a great point, Estet. I mean, realism, Ellie, it's so, honestly, I was saying last hour, you almost have to reprogram your brain to hear the reality, to hear somebody, a leader, level with the American public and say, we need to redouble our efforts, we need to recommit to the fight, we need to steel our spine, as opposed to, it's going to magically go away, or we should inject bleach. I mean, when you look at the contrast, it's jaw-dropping. And one more thing, President Trump, issued this Thanksgiving Day proclamation, and I just need your help understanding why. I encourage all Americans to gather in homes and places of worship to offer a prayer of thanks for our many blessings. I mean, it's so counter to all medical advice. It's so counter to conventional wisdom. I know he prides himself on being, I guess, a contrarian, but it's, I mean, legally, I know that's your wheelhouse. It's, he's telling people to risk their lives.
Yeah, Allison, it is baffling. I can go beyond legal. It is baffling as a normal human being, I can say that. But even within the context of the Supreme Court opinion we just saw, you used the exact right word, which is realism. That is sort of the key, the heart of the dispute here. On the one side, you have the majority, which said, well, religious liberty has to prevail. But the dissent, if you look at the dissent, they are saying, yes, but let's be realistic here. We have a public health crisis. We have a serious threat to our entire country. And they cite statistics in the dissent. They talk about the 7-day rolling average. They talk about the fact that we're in the midst of a second surge. So you see this battle between realism and sort of, I guess, theory playing out in the Supreme Court, where one side's saying, well, doctrine and all these, sort of vague ideas. The other side, the dissent, the losing side in this case, is saying, yeah, but look at reality, look at the stats, look at what's happening right now in our country.
And as we look at that, Ellie, just to stick with that for one moment, what struck me, too, is the fact that the comparisons are being made. So by Justice Gorsuch, for example, talking about, well, what can liquor stores do and what can bike shops do? They're very different. I mean, you don't go into typically a bike shop and take your mask off and perhaps sing with the choir. And you're not in there for an hour. And it's interesting the apples to oranges comparisons made at that level.
Exactly. So, Erica, the fundamental idea here is religious institutions are entitled to special protections. They're entitled to a little bit more protection or a bit more protection under the First Amendment, free exercise of religion. But we have to be, again, realistic about, is it really accurate? Is it really reasonable to compare a church or a synagogue or a mosque to a bike shop or a liquor store? I mean, think about how different the activities are. Think about how differently people array themselves. Think about people singing versus not singing. So again, the fault line here in the Supreme Court is sort of theory versus reality. And I think anyone who lives in the real world, and we all do, understands that going to church, going to synagogue, going to a mosque, going to whatever your place of worship is a very different proposition than going to get your bike repaired. So that is a fault line in the Supreme Court. And I think they're sending signals about where they stand for the future as well.
Instead, it looks like we are in the pardoning phase of President Trump's administration. And he retweeted a suggestion from Congressman Matt Gaetz last night that he pardon himself. It seems clear this is going to happen, instead, and we'll get to Ellie in a second for the legality of it, but I take it this is a prophylactic pardon for anything that might come up in the future?
That's how it would seem. I mean, this has been an idea that's floated around in conservative universe for a while, that he can kind of politically spin it as he is insulating himself from unfair democratic attacks. We know that President Trump himself has very real and serious legal problems that could be facing him after he leaves the White House that are not of a partisan nature, but of kind of a baseline problems of his own creation. But at the same time, we also know that this is a president that does not made any deference and at every turn flouted the kind of presidential norms around pardons and just basically around the office in general. So I don't think that that's something that is going to sway him. The idea that that's not something presidents have done before and that it's not something that is usually been seen as their role. But we are in a stage now where it's a kind of Trump Unchained in this last couple months, because he can do the pardons. He's kind of free from even caring about the virus in any specific way, even as he refuses to acknowledge the results of the election. Now, that could seem like the last gasp of an incumbent on his way out, and certainly that could be part of it. That also could be the foreground of what could be almost an immediate announcing of running for president again, which could leave him in the American psyche and controlling that portion of the base even as we go forward.
Well, I think we know that he wants to do that, right? He wants to hold on to as much of that base and as much of the psyche, hold on to strings, essentially, as he can. Ellie, if we look really quickly at the potential for the president pardoning himself, we know this wouldn't apply to any state issues. But realistically, what would he be pardoning himself for? Like, what would that actually cover?
Yeah, so Ested talked about this. One of the questions about the Michael Flynn pardon is how broad is it? I mean, remember, this pardon was done initially by tweet, and it just says a total pardon. You theoretically can issue a blanket pardon, but only looking backwards. In other words, you cannot say this person or I am pardoned for anything I might do in the future, but the president could try to issue himself a pardon saying, I'm covered for anything I've ever done up until this moment. If he does that, it will be a historic moment in the bad sense. It will be a permanent mark on his history, and it will be very legally debatable about whether it's even constitutionally valid to pardon yourself. I think the stronger argument actually is that that would be invalid, but if anyone's ever going to try it, this is the president.
All right, on that note, Ested, Ellie, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you both very much.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks.
We have a quick programming note. Be sure to watch later today as CNN brings you the story of Joe Biden's life, his ambition, and the tragedy on his path to becoming president-elect. Fight for the White House, Joe Biden's long journey, today at 4 p.m. Eastern on CNN. And we have a remarkable story for you of survival. A pregnant mom sick with coronavirus. She gave birth days before having to be put on a ventilator. She was just released from the hospital after being there for 5 months. Who joins us next?